Hi guys, it's Sophia and today I have another sewing video for you guys. Lately I've been really missing going out thrift shopping and just rummaging through piles and piles of secondhand clothes. But for obvious reasons my favorite local thrift shop is closed down for the time being. So unfortunately that is impossible right now. So to have some form of a thrifting experience, I decided to rummage through my dresser here at home and just look if there's anything I can upcycle. And I rediscovered this vintage top that I had totally forgotten I even owned. I fell in love with the print of it, or it's actually more like a texture, I guess. And I just love the neckline and the gold details. But this top isn't really as flattering as it could be, so I thought we could try and improve it a little bit. My plan is to slightly accentuate the sweetheart neckline that we have going on by bringing the shoulders back and removing some of this fabric right here. Then we might need to make the shirt a bit slimmer on the sides as well as a bit shorter at the top. I mean the bottom of the top. So that is our plan for today, and let's just get started. Now the way that I've decided to cut this shirt is that I'm gonna start off by following the sweetheart neckline but give it a few extra centimeters of seam allowance basically, and then when I get to this side seam here I think I'm just gonna follow it down to the back, and on the back of the shirt I'm just gonna follow this armpit seam, I guess, up like right about here, and then I think I'm just gonna cut a straight line, or a little bit, like I'm probably gonna curve it a little bit, but basically a straight line down to the other side and basically repeat those steps on the other side as well. So that way I'm gonna have an open back and an extended sweetheart neckline, and also the sleeves will be separate from the shirt. Also, I noticed that the shoulder pads are in pretty rough condition. The filling is like just disintegrated inside and it's like shedding these tiny particles everywhere. Yeah, before I do anything I think I'm gonna separate these, and I mean there's nothing I can do with these. I think they're just gonna go to the trash because they're in rough condition right now. Now I think I'm ready to start cutting the shirt. Oh gosh, I don't know why I'm so nervous about cutting this. I mean it's a beautiful shirt as it is, and it's probably vintage and everything, so I'm really scared that I'm gonna ruin it forever, but I mean, oh my god, I'm really nervous about this. Okay, there's no going back now. We are committed and we are cutting. Now I just put the top on inside out so that I can figure out how much I need to take in from the sides, and then I'm gonna mark those with pins. And then for the neckline, as you can see here, they've used like another piece of fabric and some interfacing to help the neckline basically like keep its shape. So what I'm gonna do is probably undo some stitches here, flip this over, and maybe also add some interfacing here, and do that on both sides, and then I can sew it. So I put the first couple of pins in while I was still wearing the shirt, and then I laid the top on the ground and made sure that my pins were all symmetrical and even on both sides. Also, the shirts already had seams on the front, but I decided to bring them in a bit to make the top more form-fitting. After I was done pinning the top, I simply sewed along the line, following the pins very carefully. Then I tried the top on to see how it fits, and continued by cutting out all the leftover seam allowance. Then I simply finished the raw edges off with a zigzag stitch on both sides of the seam. Unluckily for me, my sewing machine decided to jam here, so I had to try my best to sort that problem out. Fortunately, I managed to solve the issue and was able to continue sewing. But of course the issues didn't end there and my bobbin thread ran out. But that one is on me because I totally forgot to check how much thread I had left. So after rewinding my bobbin full of new thread, I was once again able to continue sewing. And after I was finished, I decided to press the seams so that they would lay flat. Now that the side seams are all done, I think I'm gonna undo some of the original seams up here, figure out how I'm going to flip the top like so, and also probably add some interfacing. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. So turns out that I was actually able to just use the existing interfacing that the top already had. So what I did was just pin it down on the inside so that it follows the neckline nicely. And what I'm gonna do is just sew this inside bit first, and then I'm just gonna top stitch the whole neckline so that it looks nice and even with the one that we already have here. And then for the back side, I think I'm gonna do a zigzag stitch on the free edge basically, and then flip it over once and do a top stitch there as well. Okay, so this is the situation we have going on with the sleeves. So as you can see, I have like this much extra sleeve on the bottom. So what I think I'm gonna do is just cut out the sleeve like right alongside the seam here, and then I might do like a running stitch on the top so that it gathers the fabric up, so that there's not as much like extra room here, and that might result in like a little bit more poof action on the shoulders, hopefully. And then what I'm gonna do with like these side bits here, I think I'm just gonna like cut it on, I don't know, both sides, the front and the back. I'm gonna save like this inside bit, and hopefully I'll be able to like make the edge look nice and neat on both sides. And what I'm gonna do is just sew the sleeve and the side bit together, and that's like, after that I'm basically just gonna sew it onto my corset looking thing here, because as you can see I have these slits for the sleeves that I'm going to then sew together. And I mean, I think the end result is gonna be like really close to, it's gonna be really close to the shirt that this was in the beginning. Yeah, so that is the plan. I'm gonna start by cutting the sleeves, ruching up the top, and then probably sewing the pieces together. So let's go. Yeah, as I said, I started off by just cutting the sleeves completely off, and then I sewed the raw edges with a zigzag stitch so that they wouldn't fray. Next, I started doing the running stitch on top of the shoulder, so basically just taking a piece of thread and running it up and down on the fabric, which then enables me to create this gathered effect. Before securing the running stitch in place, I tried the sleeve on to make sure that I didn't accidentally make it too tight. Then I started working on the shoulder pieces, I don't know what to call these, but basically the strips of fabric that go from front to back. They turned out to be a bit shorter than what I needed, so I cut out extra pieces from the remaining fabric to sew on as extensions. Then I proceeded to do all the necessary sewing for these pieces, so attaching the extensions, zigzagging the edges, and finally top stitching the edge. So I already sewed one sleeve on off camera just to make sure that I did it all correctly. So now we can move on to attaching the other sleeve. Basically what I did was just kind of start attaching this strip of fabric to the sleeve and then to like the bodice bit and just kind of figure out what looked best and what felt best. Like here, sometimes if I would attach it in, I don't know, a bad way, it would like be easier for the sleeve to slip off. So I tried to get it so that it fits pretty comfortable. So yeah, I'm basically just gonna try to pin it down in a similar way that I did with this sleeve. Again, I did the first initial pinning while I was wearing the top and then switched alternately between taking the top off to pin it some more and trying it on. But this was very important to get the fit just right. So here you can see all the pins that I put in, basically just going all the way around the sleeve. I also pinned the shoulder pieces down on the front and the back because I needed to sew them in place. And then all that was left to do was just sew the sleeve, the shoulder piece and the bodice all together. And now the last step is to just make the top a little bit shorter. And what I've done is just mark this line with pins so that I know how short I eventually want my top to be. And what I'm gonna do is just leave a couple of centimeters of seam allowance. So I'm gonna cut somewhere around like here. And then I'm going to finish the edge by just sewing it neatly. So that is what we're gonna do right now. I'm actually really happy with how this vintage top turned out. I kind of feel like I'm your cool rich aunt who's on the way to buy a Louis Vuitton bag with the money she got from her 4th divorce. Because I mean, that's a mood, you gotta admit. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up this sewing thriftover video. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can do so at Sofiamainen. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can click the subscribe button. But that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!